and welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Got lots to go over, as usual. First off, the developing news that just broke earlier today. The Michigan Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh, and the Big Ten have agreed to the three-game suspension. Jim Harbaugh will not fight that. Now, that's public news. I get that, but Ed, you detected something buried inside that statement from the University of Michigan. Please tell our audience what it is.
Yes, it was a statement that was made. I believe it was from specifically from President Santa Ono of the University of Michigan himself. There's a lot to go into, but first and foremost, let's give the background as to what led to today. First and foremost, when Harbaugh's suspension was announced last Friday, the timing was seen as suspicious because you got to consider the fact that when this was announced, Harbaugh was already on the plane with the team, getting ready to descend onto Happy Valley, or at least into State College to get ready for the game. When all of a sudden the team finds out about the suspension, not from the conference first or from Tony Batiti or from anybody else. No, they find out from social media about 20 minutes before they get the official email from the Big Ten announcing what was going on. So that alone felt suspicious, regardless of, and the fact also that they decided to announce this at the pretty much near the end of a business day on a Friday and on a holiday nonetheless, with it being Veterans Day. So overall, the timing of it came up as suspicious, and but most importantly, most special of all, this cannot be understated enough. This decision that was made by the Big Ten to suspend Jim Harbaugh was done while the investigation with the NCAA was still going on. So that was the main crux of Michigan's argument. That's why, above all else, they decided to file an injunction,
I
try
was
to get the
I was
temporary.
wondering if it was like pending further investigation, the suspension.
Yeah, but for some reason, again, that's what the school argued, that they did not get their due process, that the conference came to a rush decision while an investigation was still going on. So that's why they tried to file the injunction to try to get a temporary restraining order applied, so that way Harper would be allowed to at least coach on the sidelines. But long story short, something could not be done. Obviously, it could not be done in time for this past Saturday's game against Penn State. And for whatever reason, whether it been the school's decision or the conference, whatever it is, whoever you want to believe, the fact still remains is the long story short version is a deal was reached. A deal had been reached. And as a result, and again, it's worth important to pay attention to these details. The conference will close their investigation as long as Harbaugh will serve out the remainder of this suspension. So that's the compromise. That is the deal that has been agreed upon. And also, it's worth noting that while Harbaugh will not be allowed to coach on the sidelines on game day, he can still coach the team and prepare and give game plans to the coaches and the coaching staff throughout the week. So it's not like he's completely barred from the team. Again, it's just very similar to how the first 3 game suspension played out at the start of the season. That's all there is. And again, it's worth noting it's for regular season only. That's what was the original language of the suspension when it was announced, and it's still going to be held up, which means yes, more than likely Jim Harbaugh will not be on the sideline for the Ohio State game. But and it's worth noting, a big but, should Michigan be able to take care of business and handle what they're supposed to handle against Maryland and against Ohio State. Not only will they clinch the Big Ten East division title, they will also have their coach back on the sideline for the Big Ten championship game, because what? That would mean the regular season is over. So a lot to decipher, a lot of detail, but it's worth noting those important specific details to get the full get the full context rather of what's going on with this story. Because, and it's worth noting, the NCAA is still pending it's still an open investigation with them, which was also stressed about as well in the letter by the president. So again, a compromise was reached with the Big Ten. The Big Ten will close their end of the investigation while we still wait a word from the NCAA.
Yep. But that doesn't mean Michigan was going to give up. They went into Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley and beat the Nittany Lions, Penn State, 24-15. Michigan's defense especially stepped up, of course, and you got Blake Corum scoring 2 touchdowns, including the dagger, of course, from 30 yards out. Donovan Edwards scored a touchdown in between, and James Franklin being a dunderhead as a coach. The Nittany Lions have great players, but man, and they got a good defense as well. But the way the way Franklin runs the offense, Michigan's defense took advantage. But there were times where on that one of those that second to last drive by Penn State just fell apart, and Michigan took over on downs, and Blake Corum put almost the dagger into the hearts of the Nittany Lions with that 30-yard touchdown on one play. Penn State scored a touchdown after that, but missed on the 2-point conversion due to because of just a questionable play call by James Franklin on that 2-point conversion attempt. I get going for 2 because you want to make it a 7-point game and try to tie it the easier way when you score a touchdown after recovering an onside kick with a little bit of luck. But honestly, that type of play call, what was that,
Trust
man?
Me, that was
Will Johnson.
That was one of many play calls that James Franklin made and decisions that James Franklin made that had Penn State fans with that same reaction. But go ahead, continue.
Yep. Will Johnson made the defensive play, batted the pass away, which denied the Nittany Lions the 2 points, and then the onside kick recovered by the Wolverines, which sealed it. Now continue.
Yeah, so leading up to all that, you got to take into consideration the fact that, first and foremost, Penn State's defense at the start of the game, they came to play. They were aggressive. They were following the cue of their defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz. They were bringing pressure, and they were fast. So much so that Sharon Moore, in addition to feeling the pressure already of filling in for Coach Harbaugh, had to make that mid-game adjustment on the fly on how to counteract Penn State's aggressive and speed with their defensive rush. So the only way they could do that was bring in extra offensive linemen, use their aggression against them. And since Penn State did not make the adjustment of trying to realize that, hey, Michigan is, speaking of the irony, right, of, hey, you want to talk about signs being stolen. Here's Michigan being so one-dimensional. They're literally telling you play after play after play for that entire second half. Here's what we're going to do to you. Try and stop it. And again, it seems to be a microcosm of what other people were talking about with this whole scandal to begin with. Okay, you know what's coming, but you still got to try and stop it. And with Michigan running the ball for 32 straight plays in that second half, it spoke to how Sharon Moore was able to make an adjustment on Penn State's defense, take what the defense was giving them and use it against them, but also the fact that the Penn State coaches somehow didn't find a way to counteract that and just load up the box that they were and just take their chances. Because while J.J. McCarthy was not his usual strong self, he was still least efficient. But you could have at least put more pressure on JJ to try to beat you with his arm, as opposed to what you eventually saw with not just Blake Corum doing the damage that he did on the ground, but also Donovan Edwards. That's another key player to mention and point out as well. Corum and Edwards together. And frankly, that may come to pay huge dividends against Ohio State next week, but I'm giving to it way ahead of myself because we still got Maryland to get to. But as in terms to going back to what we saw here against Penn State, between Corum and Edwards and that offensive line doing what they had to do, frankly, it was up to the defense to not screw up. And between getting that big fumble that changed the absolute momentum of the game, because it was 14-9, Penn State had the ball, they were having some momentum, having some rhythm, they were moving the ball downfield, and on the third down play, boom, they fumble it, Michigan picks it up, and while they didn't get a touchdown out of it, they did get a field goal. They stifled Penn State's momentum, and they was able to just continue applying, as Joel Klatt would say, their boa constrictor game plan of just squeezing slowly but surely squeezing the life out of you with their offense, with their style of play, and their game plan, and how they usually operate things in the second half. And we saw it to come to fruition once again. They leaned on them. They leaned on them until they broke.
They did. Yep. And that's how you get it done on the road
Yeah. I
against
listen.
a
I
top
told
10
you.
team.
Listen. I had told you before. I told you for weeks, if not months, this game was going to be our toughest remaining game of the season, even more so than Ohio State. And it seems to be an understatement of how, or foreshadowing of how much understated that statement as well. Because when considering the fact that the Jim Harbaugh situation that was happening in real time with this, and all the pressure of the weight of the world that was going on, the outside noise and everything, I don't blame Sharon Moore for showing the emotion that he displayed in that post game interview. People will like to mock and make fun of it and say, "Oh, why are you crying?" But guess what? Put the guy in put yourself in his shoes. On top of everything, all the other factors I've mentioned. Oh, by the way, this is the University of Michigan. Of that, and your guy still got the job done. I would have been just as emotional as he was, if not worse. So credit to Sharon Moore for doing what he had to do with that staff, with that game, with the adjustments, with the game plan, and also with the players for stepping up through literal blood, sweat, and tears. Blake Corum with the blood coming down his face. You saw it in that post game picture. It shows, it speaks to the character, to the mettle, the mentality of this team. Joe Cladd said it when Colin Cowherd showed they're playing pissed off. And you could see it in how they're playing on the field. This whole issue is motivating them. It is bringing them together. And frankly, it could be an X factor as to how they'll perform for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And that's proof that Michigan can beat Ohio State without Jim Harbaugh. Well,
Yes, and
yeah.
it's possible. And think about it. Think
It
of the
is.
ramifications that could happen for not just Ryan Day, but also for that Ohio State fan base. And it also seems like a poison pill. It's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Even if Ohio State were to win this season, some people will still if you want to do a Mike Tirico and put an asterisk on it and say, hey, you won, but you didn't do it with Jim Harbaugh on the sideline. You know what I mean? So, and also you compound that even worse. It's like, wow, you got a chance to finally beat Michigan without Harbaugh if you're Ryan Day, and you still lose. So it's still the poison, a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. But if you're Michigan here, you still need to focus on what you got to do here against Maryland, because this has trap game, look ahead game, all that written all over it. So they need to be careful here against the Terps.
Yep. And speaking of the Maryland Terrapins, the Michigan Wolverines are favored by minus 19. Saturday at noon on Fox is the kickoff. The Wolverines are going to crush Maryland even without Jim Harbaugh. Not much else
19
to say
point
there.
favorites. 19-point favorites on the road is really that's big confidence if you're Vegas. I understand Maryland is not that good of a team. I understand how well Michigan has been on the road this year, but I'm just saying that type of point spread, knowing that you have Ohio State next week, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan, let's say they're up by 21 or 24 points in the third, early fourth quarter. They got the game on lock. If they pull some starters, say, Blake Corum, for example, because we all remember what happened last year against Illinois, hint, hint, knock on wood. And frankly, you're going to need both those guys against Ohio State next week. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the starters get pulled, like I said,
The week
before the fourth
thereafter.
quarter. Yeah, before the fourth quarter, and then Maryland gets like a couple garbage time points or something like that. So I still think Michigan will win. They'll win comfortably, but Maryland will probably do just enough to get the sneak in a backdoor cover.
All right. So, scoring prediction.
My score prediction, I'll say Michigan 38. Actually, no, Michigan 31, Maryland 17.
I'm going to go
14, Maryland
Michigan.
14, Maryland 14.
Okay. I'm going to go Michigan 35, Maryland 10.
So you're saying Michigan will win and cover.
Yeah, because I think Michigan's defense still has that stoutness, that ability to defend the red zone the same way they defended the Penn against the Penn State Nittany Lions on the road the
Well,
last
also
Saturday.
you got to take consideration that James Franklin, like I said, the decisions that I mentioned with James Franklin decided to do or not decided to do, he was fairly too inconsistent. He was being soft on one end, where he was not being aggressive enough early on. Then he decided to switch it up and be aggressive, which I thought was the right call. You know, with that fourth down play, with that halfback pass, that frankly a trick play that caught Michigan off guard, that led to that touchdown. And for some reason, he decided to let his aggression get the better of him later in that game with that 4th and 5, instead of trying to play field position because the defense had been doing such a good job of limiting Michigan's offense, but still giving them that short field. That's what did it. And when you give them a short field, when your defense has already been reeling, that's what lets that Blake Corum dagger. But as for going on to Maryland, yeah, baby Tua's brother, he'll still have something to say. That Maryland offense can find ways to score the ball, but against this Michigan defense, I doubt. Maybe they'll catch him they'll catch him sleeping for an early touchdown, but after that point, they'll get smothered. Michigan's offense will do what they have to usually do. And frankly, the main concern for this game is just have your guys, have your horses ready for Ohio State. That's just my main concern at this point for this game.
Yeah, that's true. So the Lions. Let's move on to them. It was a slugfest between the Lions and the Los Angeles Chargers, but the Lions, they came out on top. They made the smart move to, after converting on 4th and 2, going for it and converting, and then take 3 knees to set up that Riley Patterson 41-yard field goal as time expired. David Montgomery a 75-yard touchdown run with the help from the block from Jamison Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown scoring a touchdown. Kirby Joseph a pick. But really, both offenses from each team were strong the whole way through, in general. Yeah, but the Lions, they just came out on top and they improved to 7-2. The Chargers 4-5, feeling pain, as urinating tree would scour.
Yeah, the usual pain of the Chargers losing at the end of the game thanks to a field goal situation, which is again the usual Chargers loss that we've seen to have happened to them now for many, many years. But leading up to that, though, was an absolute offensive shootout, like as you described, Taylor. First and foremost, for the Lions side of things, the fact that this was the first time in a while that we had both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs healthy at the same time was huge. You saw it become evident. They were able to give the right balance to each other between Gibbs' speed and Montgomery's power. Again, find that right balance between getting big plays through thanks to performance of the offensive line, but also finding plays with their wide receivers delivering blocks in the second level down the field. Most notably on the Montgomery touchdown run when what? Jamison Williams. Once again, that's like the second time that's happened this season. JMO delivers a big block down the field that helps give Monty the space he needs to get down the field for a touchdown, and there you go. And we saw that. Speaking of JMO, by the way, very impressive. I think everything is starting to slowly but surely come together for him. Like I've been preaching to you now, to everyone else here now for weeks. It takes time. But you see how he's delivering blocks on the run. You saw how he was doing in the passing game, getting himself involved. And yes, that penalty call was weak. It was soft. JMO deserved that touchdown. But I digress. I love seeing him get involved. I love seeing his attitude being shown. These interviews were saying where you can just tell he's caring more about wanting to help his team win than worrying more about his own personal individual accolades. And that speaks to how Dan Campbell and other guys on his team, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, for example, have been able to get to him and get in between his ears and make sure to know the important things, what's the most important objective for this team for this season. So it's showing through in his play. It's showing through how he's excited for his teammates. And frankly, if you're Ben Johnson, you reward that by getting him the ball, but getting him the ball in creative ways, less telegraphed ways. You don't just say, "Hey, you're going to line up, go vertical, go deep." No, let's run yourself some screen some screenplays. Let's run him some jet sweeps. Let's run him some crossing routes. Let's run him some slants. Find various ways and different methods to get Jameis the ball without being so predictable to where the defense knows what you're going to do. And thankfully, with Donovan Peoples-Jones added now to the forefront, and once I believe he's going to be healthy
Full
enough from his rib
practice.
injury to play. Healthy enough to play this week against Chicago. That's now a deep threat to where you can make him, hey, that's your deep threat vert guy, and also take that pressure off of JMO to where you now open up the field to move him around and do other different things. So it's all balancing itself out equally. Because if you also notice, this was the first time in a long while that the entire offensive line was playing together. So this was the offense at its most optimal peak that you can imagine, and they scored 41 points as a result. So you're excited for the offense, and you're excited to see how they're able to have such belief in themselves and in their coach that by showing the aggression on fourth down, like running a halfback draw play from shotgun on 4th and 5. If that doesn't scream confidence, I don't know what will. But also the fact that on that last 4th down conversion, 4th and 2, they need to get what they needed to burn down the clock to get in and get that walk-off field goal. And it speaks to how Dan Campbell knows what was going on. It's adjusting to how the feel of the game and also learning from past mistakes, because he was not this aggressive late in the game against Seattle. It came back to bite him. This time he decided to be aggressive because he knew and he was well aware of the fact that, hey, the defense was not getting it done today. We need to get this, drain this clock completely to not give the Chargers another shot, because they had been gashing them all second half long, scoring nothing but touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And while that's credit to Justin Herbert for being as great as he is, he's showing you how much of a great young quarterback he is. That's still on the defense. That's still on the defense to not get off the field, giving up those scores, putting pressure on your offense to try to answer, keep things in perspective here. So with the offense getting that 4th down conversion late in the game, by the way, big catch by Sam Laporta, the rookie, coming up clutch again. That allowed the Lions to take the clock down, do what they need to do. And by the way, for Riley Patterson, who's had his own struggles this year, how much of a big, massive confidence boost that was for him to say, hey, we're going to let you win this game for us. So pay attention to that, because there may come a time again, whether it be late in the season, whether it be in the playoffs, the Lions are going to need Riley Patterson to make a big kick for them. And knowing that he has that confidence instilled in him before, that's going to pay dividends. So again, that's another example of Dan Campbell knowing what he was doing and learning and getting better as a result of it.
Yep. Teamwork and grit. Absolutely on point. So the Lions, like I mentioned before, improved to 7-2. The Minnesota Vikings are all of a sudden catching up, improving to 6-4 with their 27-19 win at home against the New Orleans Saints. The Vikings scored all 24 points in the first half. Josh Dobbs has been lighting it up offensively. The Saints almost came back to tie with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. They scored 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions after trailing 27-3 at halftime. The Vikings just had to hang on and survive a Saints comeback. But all seriousness, the Packers fall to 3-6, and the Bears beat the Panthers last Thursday in a tank bowl, and to improve to 3-7. So the Vikings are trying to catch up with the Lions.
Yeah, they are, and I'll say this: while the Vikings are showing great resilience, I still am not taking them serious enough. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but let's be honest here. You got this game because Derek Carr got injured, and you had to play famous Jameis. Okay, Jameis Winston, as much of improvement as he like to make for himself, he's still going to show you his old ways and his old tendencies, and it showed itself late in that game with the crucial turnovers, where again making unnecessary deep throws and into double and triple coverage. What do you think is going to happen? So the Vikings took advantage of that. Props to him. They can at least try to fight for a wild card, but I just don't see them having enough doing what it takes to do the necessary things to win the division, especially if the Lions are able to handle business and win enough games to stay ahead and keep pace with them. So Minnesota, they're making their case worthy for a wild card spot, but the Lions handle
Yeah.
business against them and the rest of the division games. It won't matter.
Yep. Vikings are in Denver Sunday on NBC Sunday Night Football at 8:20 Sunday at Mile High Stadium. The Broncos are favored by 2.5 after upsetting the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football this past week. Earlier this week in Buffalo. My goodness! But in
Well,
all
that Denver defense
seriousness,
is for real. We know how for real the Denver defense has become. They got their wake up call after that 70-point game against the Dolphins. They've gotten much better as a result. And
yeah.
frankly, as long as Russell Wilson isn't screwing up and turning the ball over, the Broncos could have a potential dark horse shot to be one of those late seed wild cards in the AFC. But that's if things go their way. They still need things to go their way. Winning out would be chief among them. But pay attention to that because the Broncos, they got the Lions coming up late in the season. That could be a potential flex game. I think that's week 15 or week 16. Pay attention to that Lions Broncos game.
Yep. Packers are home against the LA Chargers. Chargers favored by 3 points. That's Sunday at 1 on Fox over in the Green Bay area. But in all seriousness, the Lions are back home
Hey,
at Ford Field.
hey, don't forget just that, for division lead, the Lions may still have an outside shot at the 1 seed. They're only one game behind Philly, and guess what? Philly has Kansas City this Monday night. Super Bowl rematch.
Yep. Yeah,
So, all right, you
exactly. I
got the
can't wait to
Kelsey.
see that.
Right, the Kelseys are meeting the Swifts. It's a big time mega event. Tune in.
Yeah. I know Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are in a relationship. That's not going to bother me at all. Just let them have the
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, but
But Kelsey just focuses on what's on the field when come game time when it's game time.
yeah, he's doing his best, but again, it seems like the NFL wants to really cash in on this whole Taylor Swift situation. So you have to wonder at some point when will that become a distraction for him and the team. It's remains to be seen, but you just got to wonder when that will show itself. But as for what it means for the Lions, you would hope they just are able to handle their business against the Eagles because a loss for Philly and a win for Detroit, I believe, will put them in a tie for that number 1 seed.
Yeah. Uh, But speaking of which, I wonder if Eminem's going to attend the Lions Bears game. But to be honest, that's even less serious. The Lions are favored by -7.5. Sunday at 1 on Fox at Ford Field against Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. Fields is returning from an injury, so all eyes will be on him too.
I think if you're Justin Fields, you gotta pay attention to the fact that this is a Lions defense that if they don't get their pass rush going outside of Aiden Hutchinson, you can score some points on them. The fact that they scored 30 on them last year at Soldier Field speaks for itself, and that was with Justin Fields using his legs, using his athleticism to get himself involved, but he is prone to turnovers. So if you're Detroit, you're banking on the fact that he will present you with a turnover at least once or twice turnover opportunity throughout this game, even if you're not getting the acquisite pressure that you're trying to get on him. So even despite Justin Fields coming back, knowing what this defense has had trouble before with mobile QBs, I still expect them to do what get enough stops, maybe get one turnover or two. And also combine the fact that even though Chicago has a strong defensive front, they're tough to run on. They just got Montez Sweat to help with their pass rush issues. They still have a very weak and very soft secondary. And with the Lions, with Jared Goff, the way he's been performing this season, and also that offensive line, they do not give up sacks. They do not let their guy get hit. The fact that you're just dealt with coming off of a game where you faced a team that had Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, and on 20 combined snaps where those two were playing together, you got zero pressures, you got zero sacks on Jared Goff, Penei Sewell, Graham Glasgow, and that off line. They held shit down. So you want to see them hopefully do the same here against Montez Sweat and that Bears front to where it's going to open up the playbook for you to run your play action, take advantage of that weak ass secondary that they have, and score some points. Keep on scoring points like you have. Now, I had first heard that what the line was maybe 9 or 9.5. I don't know. It must have dropped down to 7.5 because of the Justin Fields announcement. Because what was it? The rookie, the undrafted rookie, was playing while he was hurt. I think if he had been still playing, the line would have been bigger. But because Fields is coming back, that might give them, I guess you could say, a puncher's chance. But that being said, the Lions, they should still handle their business. I can see them winning this game. If they do it right, don't take care of the ball, they can win this game by at least 10 points.
All right, so 10 points. I'm going to follow up on that. I'm going to go Lions 37, Bears 27. How about you?
That seems like a fair score because I don't know what if the defense, if they're not getting sacks and pressure on Fields, I can see him getting enough yards of production where he can get a couple scores on him.
Yeah. So, what is your scoring prediction?
My score prediction, I'll say Detroit 31. Detroit 31-21. 31-21.
Yeah, because I know their defense is better than they were in LA at SoFi Stadium. I know Justin Herbert was an offensive weapon, but still there was room for improvement.
Massive improvement. You know, Keenan Allen was killing them all over the field. And if I'm Justin Fields, I'm going to be looking for my tight end. I'm going to be looking for Cole Kmet all day on Sunday.
Yep. Again, yep. Pass rush and secondary both have to work together and do their own jobs, like every week. Like I always point out.
Especially the pass rush. Are you kidding me? There's a stat being posted from Pro Football Focus this week in terms of the top 7 Lion players with QB pressures. Obviously, number one at the list was Aiden Hutchinson with 53, but the drop off was scary. The player with the second most pressures, it was John Kaminsky. It was 23 QB pressures, and then it gets lower and lower after that. So the Lions need to do a much better job of you would like to see more sacks, but how about more guys on the D line besides Aiden stepping up? You know, I like seeing what
Bruce Irvin was signed to the practice squad.
Yeah, Bruce Irvin. That's probably one reason why they signed Bruce Irvin, because outside of a couple of guys like, say, Ali McNeil, for example, that's doing his job, that defensive line outside of Aiden Hutchinson has been largely disappointing for the past couple of games now. So bringing in a Bruce Irvin, I think probably acknowledges the fact that, hey, maybe we could have done something better at the trade deadline with fixing up that D-line hub. I get it. I probably still would have done the Donovan Peoples-Jones move because consider the fact that, no, you did not have Marvin Jones down there. You needed help with your wide receiver depth. But also understand that, hey, you know, Aiden needs some help on the defensive line. And while you're still waiting on James Houston to get back from injury, that's still a ways away. So you need an able-bodied person in there to help provide some type of help on that D line to get some pressure along with Aiden. So if you're bringing in this veteran in Bruce Irvin who knows how to get the job done, that's his specialty. Dan Campbell seemed pretty optimistic about that signing. Let's see how it turns out.
Yep. And as for the secondary, I know it's the pass rush that's the big thing, but the secondary can't just stand around and rely on that to get the job done. They have to do their own job and cover the opposing receivers. But remember, play the ball, not the body. You don't want to get penalized for pass interference or holding or any of that crap. You play the ball, make the defensive play, whether it's a bat away or an interception.
It also comes down to the fact, Taylor, that because the Lions have been so stout in stopping the run, it leaves them open for some vulnerabilities in the pass defense. So while they've been so excellent at stopping the run, that's the trade-off you've gotten as a result. So teams are starting to game plan around that more and more. If you're Aaron Glenn, you might have to counteract and possibly give up some concessions with your run defense to bolster your pass defense.
Yeah, if it has to go that way, so be it. I want to see the whole defensive unit work together, the run and the pass.
Yeah, because they're much better than this. They're
Yep.
much better than giving up 30,
The whole
35
defense,
points
yeah, the whole
every other
defensive
week.
unit is better than this. The pass rush and
Yeah.
the secondary, all
Like I
together.
understand listen, I understand with the likes of Lamar Jackson dropping 38 points on you. But you can't be doing that on a week in and week out basis and expect to contend for championships.
Hell no, absolutely
So
not. The Red Wings, they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. They had to hang on for a 5-4 win at Little Caesars Arena that last Saturday. And then they had to travel all the way to Stockholm, Sweden, fall behind 4-0, but then
mm,
come all the way back to tied at 4, only to lose 5-4 in overtime to the Ottawa Senators. Alex DeBrincat was a part of that comeback along with Lucas Raymond, Shane Gostisbehere. This is almost like the game in Madison Square Garden last week against the New York
mhm.
Rangers. Also on Long Island against the New York Islanders when they fell behind 3-0. They fell behind to the Rangers 5-0. Now they fall behind to the Senators 4-0. And I thought this was like deja vu from last season, but no. As I looked at my notifications when I arrived at my workplace, it was 4-2, not 5-0 or 6-0, 4-2. I was driving. Oh, I was like, oh my God, what in the heck is going on here? The Red Wings were lucky enough to get a point, but then again, they had to work hard with not very much luck required, if you want to put it that way. But still, the Senators, it was a wake up call for them. I get that. The Red Wings almost pulled it out. I'll let that one slide. But you can't fall behind in that big of a
No, you can't keep
deficit,
doing this consistently. You can't
whether you get a
keep
point or
trying
not.
to. Yeah, you can't keep falling behind 3 and 4 goals behind after the
Or
first period, the
five.
first two periods, on multiple games like this. Now you can't keep doing this on a consistent basis and expect to be a team that wants to make the playoffs because eventually that wears thin on you. Trying to make all this, exuding all this effort and energy, making comeback after comeback happen. That falls on your defense and that falls on your goaltending to be much better. I like Ville Husso, but he has not been that very well as of late. So he's got to shore that up. He's got to fix that up himself.
And he and his wife, by
Because
the way, gave birth to a child. That's why
okay,
he
and
was
congrats,
gone. That
congrats
that
to
was
him. Who knows? That may have been playing on his mind, but still, you can't use that as a crutch. You got to play better now. You got to play
right.
better now, man. Because the way that the offense has been able to score, now you're seeing them some key players get their rhythm back. Alex DeBrincat, going back to the Columbus game, that was his first goal in 8 games, and he follows up here with the goal here in Sweden. Fabry, this was the Columbus game was his second game back. He got in on the action. You mentioned Lucas Raymond. This was his I guess you would say homecoming, so to speak, with him playing in Sweden.
Sure
But
enough.
yeah, you can't be falling behind like this consistently. Expect to be a team that gets playoffs. No, that's just not how it works.
Gotta have a much better start than that. A much better start in that not so
Which is
Atlantic
why
division.
which is why I would not be, keep close attention to what Patrick Kane may or may not do within the next couple of weeks, because
Yeah.
apparently what's been being reported, the Rangers will not be bringing him. He will not be returning to the Rangers. So that's
Oh,
one team you can cross off his list. More than likely
wow.
is New York. So yeah, he's not returning to New York.
Now boil it down. Which teams are left, including the Red Wings?
Well, you got to consider the Capitals. Yeah, but you have to consider the Bruins. I would even say potentially the Maple Leafs as well.
Yep.
That's at least three
All those
teams
three
on that.
that
At least three teams
winners.
on that short list. There may be another one or two, but I would say that's the general gist of things right there on that list. And yes, I
Yeah.
would say the Red Wings would be one team on that potential short list as well,
Right.
because
Right. Of course.
you got to remember the Alex DeBrincat connection. And
Yeah.
frankly, if you can imagine Patrick Kane on that power play, tell me that wouldn't be a boost.
It would actually. It will.
I'm
If
just
the Red
saying.
Wings get him. It will.
Yeah.
It will. I know that for sure that it will if they get him. And I'm crossing my fingers and hoping they get him. Period.
Hey, if they get him, that just raises the expectations of, hey, you better make the playoffs this year. But that's if you get a guy like that to join your team, because it shows and it proves and it shows how serious you are of wanting to make significant stride and progress this year.
Steve Eisenman had better get to work like soon or something like that, or else.
But well, again, we got to see what's going to happen. We don't even know if he's offered him anything. We don't even know if he's even had a chance to sit down and talk to him. So the more, excuse me, more we wait this out, and the more that news will slowly leak out and dribble out as to what Patrick Kane may or may not do, we'll get a better understanding of the whole picture.
We'll stay on top of it. The Pistons have fallen to 2-10.
Oh God!
And Jeff Moss
What
has
else
been
can you say,
hopping
man?
on Tom
What
Cocaine Gores.
what else can you say? Because other than Cade Cunningham, other than Jalen Duren, other than Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser, what else can you say? The team is too inconsistent. There have
Turn
been
the ball
too
over 29
reckless,
times.
too many turnovers, and guess what? Cade is not blameless either. I understand him trying to make a play. I understand that the defense is making adjustments. They're forcing all this pressure to where you're seeing 3 or 4 guys on Cade almost at one time. But still, at the end of the day, he's got to make better decisions with the ball. I get that. But it's also incumbent on the team. And frankly, this is on Troy Weaver too. You got to get better talent and get a better shooting and better scores around your guy. Otherwise, you're gonna keep seeing this happen more and more. You're already at 2-10 here. You're looking like, oh my goodness, we're going to be a lottery team again. At some point, that falls on you as the general manager, my guy. I
Yeah,
appreciate you getting guys like
and
Cade
the
and
owner.
Duran. Yeah, for sure. But again, this is on the general manager for
Mostly
putting
on the GM.
for signing the players. He put this roster together. This falls on him. And if I'm gonna
Yep.
praise Brad Holmes, and I'm gonna praise Brad Holmes for the job he's done for picking the players that's producing right now for the Lions, I gotta have my criticism for Troy Weaver. Because outside of what we've seen from Cade, you know what you're gonna get from Duran. Asar looks like a star, but what else have you gotten? The continuing misadventures of Killian Hayes? Please.
Don't get us
Meanwhile,
started.
meanwhile, Sadiq Bey looks even better ever since you got rid of him.
Oh yeah.
That's more salt. That's more salt in the wound.
Yeah. 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 Pistons Twitter may not like this, but hey, they might not even lash out at us, but hey, we give them the truth anyway. That's part of what we do. That's mostly
Listen,
a big
we
part
only
of what
want
we
to
do.
we want we want to see this team do well, but this is just unacceptable. Period.
Yep. Exactly. It doesn't work that way. You gotta take much better care of the football and be more consistent on both
The
ends of the
basketball.
court.
Yeah, the
Yep.
basketball.
Yes. Speaking of basketball, the Michigan State Spartans men's basketball team drops from 4th to 10th after losing to James Madison, but beating Southern Illinois. But then they lose to Duke. But now
But
they
then they
got
lose
two
to
more
Duke
games.
again, again, and again. This is now Tom Izzo is now in his career. He is 3-14 against Duke.
Ah,
3-14 against Duke. And by the way, Coach
Mike
K is not
Krzyzewski's
there
already
anymore.
retired.
Exactly. Coach K is gone. And Duke is still making you their bitch. No. That's unacceptable at this point. This is supposed to be your best team since 2015, best team in a decade. You're supposed to go to contend for the Final Four. If we were going to get on Michigan's ass last year for not even making the tournament with first two lottery picks and Hunter Dickinson on their squad. By the way, shout out to Juwan Howard. I hope he gets better. He's recovering well after his heart procedure
Right.
surgery. But if we're going to jump on Michigan's throat for how they played last year,
We're
we
not
better
going to do
have
that
that
this
same.
week.
We better have that same energy for Michigan State this year because this is unacceptable on their end. You're ranked number 4 with one of the best teams, supposedly on paper, the best teams that Izzo's had, and you're starting out like this.
They should not have been ranked 4th in the first place because
They're
for the last
it's
few years they have sucked on the
they've
court.
been they have been mid at best, okay? And frankly,
Why would anyone in the media rank them 4th in the AP poll or any other poll? That's
that
ridiculous. I know that they still have Tom Izzo, but still, the talent.
Exactly. That's the only reason why. That's too much respect for Izzo. Even though they've gone 60 and 40,
like over
60 and
coddling
41,
him, for God's sake. It's
60 and 41. They've gone 60 and 41 ever since Cassius Winston left. Okay, that shows you of the state of their program right now. They are not a blue blood. They're not. They're not one of the top tier programs in the country right now. They're just not. That's the illusion, but they're not.
That's a fact, Jack. They're not. That was a fireworks grand finale there.
I mean, hell, hey, Michigan. Don't look now, but Michigan looks to be getting their shit together on basketball this year too.
Yeah, Phil Martelli's done a heck of a job in Juwan Howard's absence. The Wolverines men's basketball team is still undefeated.
That McDaniel kid looks like something special. Pay attention to him.
Yep, I will. I definitely will. So, what all did we learn this week?
We learned that Michigan is a team that is more focused than ever before. We learned that the Lions have an offense that can play with amongst the best of the very best in this league. And frankly, they have the trust and the capabilities in their coaches and their players that they can make a deep run for the division title and then some. We've learned that the Red Wings need to figure out better ways to get better starts in the game because they can't afford to keep falling down with these multiple goal deficits early in games, night in and night out, and expect to contend for a playoff spot. And what we learned from the Pistons is that, frankly, things are not. Or it's like 2 steps. It's like you're trying to take 2 steps forward, but then take 4 steps back. That's what we learned about the Pistons. Is that as even though you got guys like Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and Marcus Sasser and Asar Thompson, that's not good enough when you have other players like Killian Hayes degressing worse and worse. Jaden Ivey not getting enough playing time, and in key players like Isaiah Livers and Bogdanovich still recovering on the mend from injury. It leads to the mess of what you're seeing right now. Marvin Bagley may be playing good right now, but that's not giving you a good trade-off balance when Cade is having his struggles. Sorry, but you got to do better than that if you want to contend for a play-in spot. If you're the Pistons.
Yeah. One thing I've learned is that the Spartans losing to James Madison, of course, after sucking for the last few years in men's basketball, that proves my case that they should not have been ranked 4th at all, or even anywhere in the top 25, mind you. They're still ranked 10th.
This proves another case, and get ready for this hot take. Maybe Izzo's lost his touch. You got to start having that conversation sooner or later.
Yeah, it's almost getting to be that time for Izzo to call it quits.
Maybe almost getting to be that time.
No one lives forever. No one lasts forever.
I mean, come on, you're seeing what's going on in New England, Belichick. I'm just saying, if it can happen to him, it can happen to anyone.
Yep, it can happen to everyone in life.
Yep.
As we all live and die,
It's all cyclical.
Exactly.
So.
Yep. And that's all of what we learned for this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter, X and /Twitter, and Instagram at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Follow me on X/Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at DT2Phillips, and subscribe to my YouTube at DT2Phillips. Also on Twitch at DT2Phillips1984. Follow Ed Smith on X, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Business shoutouts go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, the B4 Foundation, Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth podcast on my podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. I just got a haircut from Melanie today. Like their Facebook page. Let's Roll With It rolled ice cream in Cadillac. Their flavor of the week is still pumpkin cheesecake. Next week's flavor of the week to be determined. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac. 231-884-8195 and on Facebook. By the way, follow the rolled ice cream shop on TikTok at the Food Mafia LLC and on Instagram at the Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. And finally, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, where Jim Lyons works. Until next week, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday at 10:30 or 11. For Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. And remember, we observe Michigan sports and we detect the truth. Stay on the lookout and stay awake. Stay aware, everyone.
Take care and be safe, everybody.